What's going on, you guys? It's Tony and Lati Casa Esmeralda, and today I'm doing the English version of baking bread. I did a version in German a while ago, and when I had my Canadian friends visit, they asked me, how did you make this bread? So I'm gonna do the Canadian English version right now. I have my bowl here, and I have in my closet, I have some linseeds. So I added in my bowl here a handful of linseed. Then I added a handful of poppy seeds, which is right here. And then I added a handful of sunflower seeds, right there. And what else did I add? And some salt. I added a handful of this Mediterranean salt. This salt comes from it's Adriatic salt. It is made here by some local farmer in a big salt farm. They collect the seawater and then they desalinate the water and they make this salt. So it's really good. I added about half a handful of that to this, and then my neighbor, he makes flour. He has a flour mill, and he sells me this bag less than in the grocery store, and I get a 5-kilo bag from him for €2 in exchange for some chicken eggs. So this is type 00, and he sells me this for €2, and then this will make me about, I guess, 4 loaves of bread. So this is pretty good. 5 kilos for €2. Okay, so let's get going here now. I'm gonna make my bread. My head's cut off a little bit if I kind of sit down or something, and then I stir this up. See if we can get, if I adjust it a bit. Well, that works good now. Kind of had to do a little adjustment. So, kind of stir and mix this up. Okay, and then I want to make a little hole in here. And then I need my scissor, which I just saw is right here. And I get 2 packages of yeast. Find a good yeast, one that you like using. There's lots of different types of yeast out there. And then I need some sugar, and I will be doing some more canning today. On day 3 of canning, kind of took yesterday off because I went to the store I didn't like going to town, but I went anyway. And the lady sold me a dozen canning jars, Mason canning jars. She sold me with the funnel and the lids for 770 euros. Isn't this a great place? So I'll show you that later on today when I do my canning. I just need the sugar right now. This guy can go in the fireplace. I have to be careful. I'm gonna burn them outside actually. Kind of keep this back here for now because it's sugar and I don't want ant problems. But haha, I got another sugar. So a good handful of sugar. There. So a good handful of sugar, some good brown sugar. This is also from Mediterranean. It's a company here that makes sugar. I'll leave that out because I need that for canning today. And then I need some good quality spring water. And give that a stir. So this is active yeast, and then it will start working right away. So actually, the faster you get heat to it, very high intense heat, the better it'll work and the more the bread will rise. So you don't want to wait more than 5 minutes really on mashing this up, because it'll work with the dough really well. This one works with the dough really well. Here in the South Adriatic, they do a lot of firewood oven cooking, so they need a very good yeast and a very good flour that acts very well to high heat. I just put this in the bag. That acts very well to high heat, and it just goes, right? So that's how the traditional way of cooking, and a lot of people here still cook like that at home, where they have a firewood oven in their house or outside, and they do their general cooking with that. In the winter time, I have a fireplace which I can cook on, and when I feel it and I have time, I cook on my fireplace. Because the bricks are designed to be cooked on, and it's almost the same setup as a firewood oven. So that's going now. Yeast is really, just give it a good stir, really stir in, get the yeast chowing or eating down on the sugar. You can also grow your own sour dough, right? You can have a jar that's 3 years or 5 years old. My grandmother had a jar that was like 5 years old, and she used a little bit of that, of the sour dough, and that one really good. So that's working good now, so we just kind of all blend that in. You want to have clean hands, wear a hat, things like that. I don't like baking bread with gloves and things like that either. I really like to get into it, and it's for myself. It's just when I have guests or something like that, and then I do canning, then yes, I do like to wear gloves there. Okay, so I add some water, and this is just by feel, like, I don't know, try like a little less than half a cup of water. And then I just kind of fold it and stir and see where I'm at. I love this bowl, it came with the house. It's like the old lady, she left everything behind and she went into the old folks' home. Anyways, cooking bread or baking bread today. Okay, so it's getting sort of clumpy here. Gotta add a little bit more water. Add more water where there's no dough, when it's just flour. So there we go. Kind of fold that in, like almost like doing cake. So the flour that is here is very dry, because I lived in Austria for 3 years, and then I visited Germany more than a few times a year. Kind of just going across the border there, taking the trains. And off and on I picked up a German flour then too. When I moved to Europe, I started baking my own bread. I didn't really bake my bread when I lived in Canada, but I thought it's a great idea. When I started working on the farm, I started meeting farmers that grew their own grains, and they had their own mills in their houses. And I thought, and the farmer that I worked at for 3 years, he had a mill in his own house, and he didn't have, he wasn't growing his own grains. But when I and the friends started the food co-op, I actually founded a food co-op, then we grew our own grain in the first year, but then it was a lot of work. And we still, every year we still grew our own grain, and we harvested our own grain, but just enough for ourselves, for like about 20 different families from the first year to about 50 different families in the third year. So we grew on 5 acres all different types of grains to make bread. And there was a flour mill that he had on his farm, and we used that to grind up our own flour and to make our own bread. Right? It was just one of the suggestions that the farmer allowed us to do. He was retired for 8 years, and his farm was in the city, and he wanted, and if his land was not worked in the next following year, his taxes would have gone up, doubled. So he had to do something and put either animals or put something to work on the field that he was farming, and then a person from the city came by to view that it was still agriculture and it was not being zoned as a city residential property. Because if you were a residential property, then you would pay double the amount of taxes, and if you were an agricultural property, you would pay twice as less the taxes. So that's how I got into starting baking bread. So now it's 5 years that I've been baking my own bread. Almost every week I take 1 hour of my time to bake my own bread, which I truly have gotten really good at. In my first year, it didn't get so good. I think it was like in my 3rd year that I started baking bread, and now it's like I can probably bake bread better than some bakeries. When the Canadian guys were here, they really liked my bread a lot. So, and I was very pleased with that. So you got a nice soft consistency dough here. And you want to really get down. And if it's a little sticky today, but that's okay, because you want something soft. And then if it's soft, and then just get more flour and then have it picked up. So we can move this off to the side here. Put this guy back here. And the softer the dough, the more it'll rise, the more it'll go, right? And the more crispy you'll have a crust then too. So I like my bread very crispy, hard crust, and then on the inside sort of hard. And when the bread is fresh, then yes, I like it sort of fluffy, almost like a croissant a little bit. But as the days go on, I like a very hearty, coming from an Austrian background, a very hearty rye sort of bread. And then this is just, this flour here is just from this region, this area here. So in the South Adriatic, they don't really have rye flour or any of the other flours. This is just of this grain that grows here. And this is more for making pizza actually, or bread itself, but the flour is really good for making different types of pizza. So Lotti's at the door. I'm just gonna open up. Yes. Hello. Do you want to come in? It's hot out today, huh? 36 degrees Celsius. So I kind of have this door because if I had it open, then all the sun would shine in, and then I couldn't make a good video because the sun would be shining on the camera. Okay, so I need my bread 150 times. So I don't know how many times I've kneaded it now. So I figure I've done this about 40 times. And then what I do is I roll it, right? So I give it a good pull, I really get it, and then I roll it. Like that, and then I knead it. Get some more flour in here. I give it another good pull, and then I roll it like that, and I get a little bit more flour. Okay, so, and then the last thing I do is I get a little hole here. See, I get a big hole. And then this is the secret. This is the secret for my Canadian guys, which they wanted to know. This is my extra virgin olive oil. This is select olive. This is only 1 can. I picked the finest and the best olives on my property. You will not get another olive oil in the world like this. Anywhere. You will not get an olive oil like this in any supermarket or anything like that. This olive oil is 100% pure extra virgin olive oil. The guy said at the mill, this is really good olive oil. This is probably one of the best olive oils he's ever seen in 20 years when he pressed it and everything, and he tried it and he had some bread there and everything. He said this was the best olive oil he's ever seen in 20 years. So, and I just get it in the hole there. And I just want to add, well, I just want to add about a good tablespoon of it. And with this flour and this olive oil, makes all the difference of the bread. So I got my baking pan here. And I need just a little bit of salt. And my olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, the supermarket olive oil that I sell, that all you guys can have and the other one you can't. I just add some to that. I add some to that bottom of the pan. And then I give this a good whirl. I get the olive oil. So I'm gonna put this there for now. Get the good olive oil. Try not to let the olive oil escape from the dough. And then I need that 50 times. So I want to get this now into a nice loaf of bread shape here. Now I've tried several methods and ways of cutting a slice across. I've done that before, and I just found that starting off, because I have a gas oven at a very high heat, extremely high heat for 10 minutes. I'm going to get my gas oven on here. So I never turned my oven on. I turned it on now at the highest heat possible for 10 minutes. And then I turn it back down after 10 minutes to normal baking temperature. And I bake it like that for anywhere between 45 minutes and an hour. I gotta get my timer on here. And you will smell it. You will smell that olive oil and the linseeds and the poppy seeds. So we'll get that on. So I'm gonna pause this video right now. I will pause it if there is a pause, or I'll make a second part of the video and then you can see my bread. So see the second part, okay? Oh.